The book of Numbers might sound like a dry book filled with numbers. Don't be fooled. It's a dramatic story about God's people, the Israelites. They journeyed through the wilderness on their way to the promised land. Their journey was full of challenges. This book teaches us valuable lessons about faith, obedience, and God's love. It's called Numbers because it begins by counting the Israelites. This census showed how God organized his people. The book of Numbers is a reminder that God is always with us, even in difficult times. He guides us and provides for us. We learn from the Israelites' mistakes and their faith. The book of Numbers encourages us to trust God's plan. The book of Numbers begins with a census. God instructed Moses to count the people of Israel. They had left Egypt after years of slavery. Now they were ready to enter the promised land. The census was very organized. It counted men from each tribe who were able to fight. This showed God's order and his care for his people. The Israelites were divided into 12 tribes. Each tribe had a specific place to camp around the tabernacle. This was a visible symbol of God's presence. The tabernacle was a tent where God met with Moses. The camp arrangement emphasized God's holiness and the importance of worship. It also showed that God was the center of their community. The Israelites faced many challenges in the wilderness. The journey was long and difficult. Food and water were scarce at times. Sadly, the Israelites often grumbled and complained against God and Moses. They doubted God's provision and longed for the comforts of Egypt. Their rebellion had serious consequences. God disciplined them for their lack of faith. Sometimes God sent plagues or allowed enemies to attack them. The Israelites' repeated rebellion shows how easily humans forget God's goodness. We must learn from their mistakes and choose to trust God even when things are hard. One of the most well-known stories in the book of Numbers is the story of the 12 spies. This tale is a powerful reminder of faith, fear, and the consequences of doubt. Moses, the great leader of the Israelites, sent 12 men, one from each tribe, to explore the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey. These men were chosen for their leadership and bravery. Their mission was to scout the land and bring back a report on its conditions, its people, and its cities. They were to assess the fertility of the land and the strength of its inhabitants. After 40 days of exploration, 10 of the spies returned with a negative report. They spoke of fortified cities and powerful giants that made them feel like grasshoppers in comparison. These 10 spies were overwhelmed by fear. They were afraid of the strong people living there, describing them as descendants of Anak, a race of giants. However, 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, had a different perspective. They brought back a cluster of grapes so large that it had to be carried on a pole between 2 men. They trusted in God's promise and believed that the land could be conquered. Joshua and Caleb urged the people to have faith. They believed that with God's help, they would surely be victorious and take possession of the land. Sadly, the Israelites chose to listen to the 10 fearful spies. Their hearts were filled with doubt and fear, and they grumbled against Moses and God. In their fear, they refused to enter the promised land, turning away from the opportunity that God had set before them. They even talked about returning to Egypt, the land of their slavery. Because of their lack of faith and their rebellion, God decreed that they would wander in the wilderness for 40 years. This was a generation lost to the desert, never to see the promised land. This story teaches us the importance of trusting God's promises, even when we face seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It reminds us that faith can lead us to great victories, while fear and doubt can lead to missed opportunities and prolonged hardships. Section 5. Korah's rebellion challenging God's authority. Rebellion continued to plague the Israelites. Korah, a Levite, led a rebellion against Moses and Aaron. He questioned their authority and God's order. Korah and his followers wanted to be priests. However, God had chosen Aaron and his descendants for that role. God demonstrated his power and justice by causing the earth to open up and swallow Korah and his followers. This dramatic event served as a warning against challenging God's ordained authority. It reminds us that God has a plan and a structure for his people. We should respect his authority and trust his ways. Section 6. Striking the rock. Moses' disobedience and its consequences. Even Moses, the great leader of Israel, wasn't immune to disobedience. Despite his close relationship with God and his role in leading the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses faced moments of weakness and frustration. During their arduous journey through the wilderness, the Israelites faced a severe shortage of water. The harsh desert conditions made their journey incredibly challenging, and the lack of water became a critical issue. They complained bitterly to Moses, expressing their fear and frustration. The people were desperate, and their cries for water grew louder and more urgent. In response to their pleas, God instructed Moses to speak to a rock, promising that water would flow out to quench their thirst. This was a test of faith and obedience for Moses. However, Moses, overwhelmed by frustration and anger, struck the rock twice with his staff instead of speaking to it as God had commanded. His actions were driven by his emotions rather than faith. Water did flow out abundantly, providing relief to the thirsty Israelites. But this act of disobedience had significant consequences. God was displeased with Moses' failure to follow his specific instructions. Moses had disobeyed God's specific command and didn't demonstrate God's holiness to the people. This moment of disobedience overshadowed his previous acts of faith and leadership. As a consequence, God declared that Moses wouldn't enter the Promised Land. Despite his years of leadership and dedication, this act of disobedience barred him from the final reward. This story serves as a powerful reminder that even the greatest leaders are accountable to God. No one is above the divine law, and every action has its consequences. Obedience to God is crucial, even in times of stress and pressure. It is in these moments that our faith and commitment are truly tested, and we must strive to remain steadfast in our devotion. Section 7. The Bronze Serpent. Healing and Hope in the Wilderness. Despite their repeated failures, God continued to show mercy and compassion to the Israelites. When poisonous snakes infested the camp, many people were bitten and dying. God instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. Anyone bitten who looked at the serpent would be healed. This bronze serpent was a symbol of God's power to heal and forgive. It foreshadowed Jesus Christ, who would one day be lifted up on a cross to save humanity from sin and death. The story reminds us that even when we face the consequences of our sin, God provides a way of salvation and hope. Section 8. God's Faithfulness, a constant amidst unfaithfulness. Throughout the Israelites' wilderness journey, one theme remains constant: God's faithfulness. Despite their grumbling, rebellion, and lack of faith, God never abandoned his people. He provided for them, protected them, and patiently guided them towards the Promised Land. God kept his covenant promises, even when the Israelites were unfaithful. This unwavering faithfulness is a source of comfort and encouragement for us today. It reminds us that God's love for us is unconditional and his promises are true. Section 9. Enduring Lessons for Today, Trust, Obedience, and the Promise of Redemption. The Book of Numbers, though written centuries ago, holds timeless lessons for us today. It is a rich tapestry of narratives, laws, and instructions that were given to the Israelites during their journey through the wilderness. These stories are not just historical accounts, they are imbued with spiritual significance and moral teachings that resonate with us even in the modern era. It teaches us about the importance of trusting God, even in the midst of trials. When the Israelites faced hardships, their faith was tested and their responses varied. Some faltered while others stood firm. This dichotomy serves as a powerful reminder that our trust in God should remain steadfast, regardless of the challenges we encounter. It emphasizes the significance of obedience to God's commands and the dangers of rebellion. The Israelites' journey was marked by moments of disobedience and the consequences that followed. These stories highlight the importance of adhering to divine guidance and the perils of straying from the path set by God. Most importantly, it reveals God's faithfulness and his incredible love for his people. Despite their shortcomings, God remained committed to the Israelites, guiding them and providing for their needs. This unwavering faithfulness is a testament to God's enduring love and mercy. The stories in Numbers encourage us to learn from the Israelites' mistakes and strive to live lives of faith and obedience. By reflecting on their experiences, we can gain insights into our own spiritual journeys and make conscious efforts to align our lives with God's will. They remind us that God is always with us, guiding us through life's wilderness journeys. Just as he led the Israelites with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, he continues to lead us through our own uncertainties and challenges, offering direction and comfort. He is faithful to his promises and offers us hope and redemption through Jesus Christ. This promise of redemption is not just a distant hope, but a present reality that we can experience in our daily lives. Through faith in Jesus, we are invited into a relationship with God that transforms us and gives us a future filled with hope.